see me, they know that every day when I'm breathing, it's for us to go farther, you know? Every time I speak, I want the truth to come out. You know what I'm saying? Every time I speak, I want to shiver. You know, I don't want them to be like, they know what I'm going to say because it's polite. They know what I'm going to say. And even if I get in trouble, you know what I'm saying? Ain't that what we're supposed to do? I'm not saying I'm going to rule the world or I'm going to change the world, but I guarantee that I will spark the brain that will change the world. And that's our job, is to spark somebody else watching us. We might not be the ones, but let's not be selfish, and because we're not going to change the world, let's not talk about how we should change it. I don't know how to change it, but I know if I keep talking about how dirty it is out here, somebody's going to clean it up.
And now he's been promoted. His job, principal.
Good evening, everyone. This is Uche Njoku, Sneaker Principal, and welcome to the Sneaker Principal Podcast. This evening, I'm going to take a very different direction. I try to keep everything connected to education and the things that that really interest me, especially what I do for a living. But however, actually, I'm not taking such a departure. What I'm actually doing is this. I'm going to tell you a story, and this story was a story that was brought back to memory because I was having a conversation with some students a couple of years back. You know, being in the cafeteria, hanging out with students is one of the things I love to do. I think it's very important as a teacher, as a dean, as an assistant principal, even as a principal, spend time with your students. They need to see you, they need to engage with you, they need to know that you're approachable. And one thing I will tell you is there's never a dull moment. There's always something to talk about. And I love those conversations where we kind of like chill and talk about fun things. And this one time we were talking about ghosts. There was a student who was saying that they had a ghost in their house. And this student was talking about like all these things that were happening in their house. And it was kind of creepy. Yeah, all of a sudden other kids started talking about me too. And I remember this time and these stories went from the ghosts in houses here in America, then to kids talking about the countries they came from and ghost stories from where they came from, things they experienced. And I had to throw my 2 cents in there. And I told a story, and this is a story I want to tell you this evening, that of something that happened to me as a kid. And it was less of a ghost story and more of this weird metaphysical something that I saw with my own 2 eyes, and there was several witnesses to it. So it wasn't like it was a ghost, like, oh, something from the corner of my eye, or I saw something that or I heard something, or saw something I couldn't explain. I saw this thing, my eyeballed, and there were other people there, and we all saw the exact same thing. So I want to tell the story, but before I tell the story, I want to create the ambiance here. So let me go ahead real quick, and let me turn this lights down just a little bit. Let me see here. Okay, here we go. Just a little darker here. Let's set the mood here. So set up everything back to where it's supposed to be. Before I tell the story, please, if you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe, share, like, follow. Please follow in other platforms you're on. Let's help the various platforms algorithms push my content out. I really appreciate that. All right, and those of you on TikTok, peace, much love. Okay, so this is a story. It was around Christmas season. I know this for a fact because my grandfather was visiting, and this is okay. Let me go back to the beginning. This story takes place in Nigeria, in northern Nigeria, in the city of Kano, and we were living. This was around 1980. I would say about 86, because we had just gotten back to Nigeria in 85. So this would have been about 86. I know it's 86 because I hadn't finished elementary school yet. So by 87, I was in boarding school. And it was during the holidays, and my grandfather was visiting. So this is my father's father, was visiting us in Kano. And where we lived right in the middle of the city. We lived in a flat, and the flat was a second floor flat, and it was a pretty big apartment. For those of you who are not familiar with what a flat is, it's an apartment. Nigeria was a formerly British colony, so we use a lot of the same terminologies as you would have in Britain. So we lived in this flat. It was a pretty big flat, and what my mother had done is the one section of the living room, my mother had turned into a salon. So it was a business, and we lived there as well. So it was a fully functional salon, and then we had, I believe, like 3 bedrooms in the back, and a full kitchen, and everything else, and a living room area. And on this day, my grandfather was in the guest room, and it was just a normal day. I was sitting in the parlor or living room section of the apartment, and I remember my mother had customers, sitting in the different stations, and everybody was like having conversations with the voices of women, gossiping, whatever the case may be. And I was young, so we're talking about, this would have been, for me, this would have been the 4th or 5th grade. 5th grade, primary 5. And I remember I think I was reading a book or something. I remember there was a commotion at the veranda, for those of you, veranda balcony. And so the way it was is that I was in the main entrance was behind me, and the veranda was on the other side of the salon, where the balcony is. And there's a little commotion there. I wasn't sure what was going on, but me being the nosy kid I ran over there. And when I got over there, I'm trying to moving people around to see what's going on. And what I saw was my mother and other women on the balcony screaming and yelling, "Please go away, please, go. God forbid, please go." And I'm thinking to myself, what's going on? And listen, I'm a little dude, so I'm a little small. I'm not quite sure what's going on here. But I'm trying to look, and I think I peeled between legs to the railing of the balcony to look downstairs. And what I saw was a young woman. She couldn't have been, I'm just going back, in my memory. She couldn't have been anything more than, maybe 21, 22. She was young. Not quite a teenager, but from my thought process, definitely somebody would have been out of high school. And she was a Hausa woman, and that's the main tribe in that part of Nigeria. She was dressed in traditional garb, which is just like if you're from India or you're familiar with sari, it's very, very similar, kind of cloth wrapped around. And she had her head covered like a hijab, but without the full face covering. And she was just standing there at the on the other side of the gate. The flat itself that we lived in was in a compound. And the compound had like 4 flats, 2 in the front, 2 in the back, upstairs and downstairs. And the balcony looking down on the other side of the gate, on the street side, was this woman, and she was just speaking in Hausa, and in the language of Hausa, and she was just like doing her hands. She was like holding her hands, like she looked like she was begging for something. But I looked up at my mother and her friends and her customers, and they looked terrified. And I was confused. I was like, and I'll be honest with you, this woman was very pretty. She was pleasing to look at. She wasn't the ugly woman. She wasn't scary. She was a very pretty person. And I just sat there, asking myself, what's going on here? I was very confused. And again, as she was taking steps closer to the gate, my mother and her friends were like, and the customers were all like, no. They were screaming, no, please don't come, go. And then somebody said, she's a witch. And I was like, okay, I've heard about witches and stories and everything else, and Africa is a place full of a lot of belief in the supernatural. And this is the first time I've ever seen somebody who was identified as a witch. And I was frozen in where I stood with my hands on the railing, looking through between the railings and just staring at this woman. And all of a sudden, she's walking towards the gate, and the gate is open. And it was interesting because usually the gate is closed. We had a gate man, but the gate was open. and gate man wasn't there. And she was walking towards the gate and about to enter. And before I knew it, I just ran to the back door. And it was it was almost like a movie to me. I didn't want to miss a thing. So I ran to the back door, and the back door, because remember, we were in the second floor flat. And when you got to the back, the main entrance into the flat, it was it opened to the outside, and there was a staircase, 2 flights of stairs, 2 flights of stairs down to the first floor. So, and what I mean by 2 flights of stairs, it was just it was angled, so it was kind of like a staircase went one direction, that angled down to the first floor. So I ran there because I saw it coming to the gate, so I figured like I wanted to see the whole entire thing. So everybody was like freaking out. So I ran to the back gate, and I got there. And by the time I got there, the woman was standing at the bottom of the steps, which was kind of weird because the speed in which I ran to the back door to see this woman was like I was running because I wanted to see everything. And it's funny, but now that I think back at it, there's no one where she could have made it from the front gate to that back step. That was a good, if you're just walking, a good 15, 30 seconds. And I know I ran so fast to that back staircase to see what was going on. And she was raised at the bottom. And before I knew it, my mom and her customers were all there at that top of the stairs screaming, "No, no, no, no." And I remember somebody grabbed me and pulled me into the apartment. And as I was being pulled back, and literally I'm being pulled backwards, so my eyes is on her. I swear to you, within the snap of a finger, she went from that bottom of the staircase, and she was at that middle section where the staircase turns up into the apartment. And my brain could not comprehend how she did that. Like I literally blinked the eye as I was being pulled back. And you know how people say things go in slow motion? I just remember blinking, and she was in that top staircase. Like she didn't come up the stairs. She just went from there to there. And being pulled back, and everybody screaming. And I get pulled into the apartment. And I mean, the commotion was insane. It was insane. And before that door could be closed, and I don't even know if anyone even tried to close that door, the door to the apartment. We were in the apartment, into the salon, and the next thing I know, she's in the apartment. And she's just standing there, doing the same hand gesture she was doing when she was outside the gate, begging. And I don't know what she was begging for. I don't understand Hausa. And my mom, her customers were just screaming, "Please, Jesus, please, please, God help us." And at this point in time, she's moving forward. And I just remember looking at her feet, and there was no motion to her legs. She was just kind of like moving forward, and I remember my heart was racing. My brain was on fire. I just didn't understand what was going on. I'm thinking, Jesus, what is this? Remember 5th grade again. So 5th grade, what is that? I was like 10, 9 or 10, 11. I think I was like, 5th grade, I was like 10. And I was just standing there looking like, yo, what's good? What's going on right now? And I'm watching this woman gliding into the apartment and coming closer to people. And I'm standing there, and my mom is holding me. She pulls me behind her, and as a mother who's protecting her child, and she's screaming, and she's praying, "Jesus, please, God, help us. Please, God, help us." And remember I told you about my grandfather. He was in the apartment. He was in the guest room. And the next thing I knew, somebody had their hand on my shoulder. And I was pulled back and behind this person. And this person then grabbed my mother and did the same thing, pulled her behind. It was my grandfather. And this is my father's dad. This man stepped face to face with this woman. And I don't know what he was saying. I don't know what language it is. I did not recognize it. It wasn't Igbo, which is our native tongue. It wasn't Hausa either. He was just speaking to this woman. It was on some like Lord of the Rings, Gandalf type stuff. I mean, all jokes aside, I was very confused. And right now I'm trying to process, but this happened, 40 years ago? No, 35 years ago. And he's talking to her, and he's walking towards her, and you start to see her, she starts to glide backwards. And the whole room is quiet. I mean, you could hear some sobbing. People were crying. And he literally walks her back. And she doesn't turn around. She just moves backwards. And again, she was so pretty. Like, her face was not, this was not a person, it was not like a demon or a green face with a moaning nose like a witch you would see in The Wizard of Oz. You know? And the reason I'm calling her a witch is because this is what the women there called her. And she just glided backwards. And by the time we got to where, before you get to the main entrance, the front door to the flat, there's a kitchen. And before she got in, the kitchen is right to the coming in, it's right to your left. And before she even got to the kitchen, I'm staring at this. And my grandfather's not a very tall man. He was probably about 5'5" at best, 5'6" tops. I was about 5'5". He was a little guy. And this woman was clearly taller than him. So I could see him I could see his back. I could see her kind of slightly taller than him. And before you got to the kitchen, she vanishes. Like she's gone. And I bolt towards the door. And I bolt towards the door to see what happened. And he walks all the way out onto the top of the staircase, outside. And I get there behind him, and she is already at the bottom of the stairs, still facing upstairs. And everybody's is in prayer. This is Nigeria, so when things go crazy, people start praying. So I run. I don't know why. Instinctually, I ran because I think by this time people were just all the adults were all like blocking my path, so I couldn't see anything. So I run back into the apartment towards the balcony because I'm thinking at least I'll get to see her leave. By the time I get outside to the balcony, by the time I get to the veranda to the balcony, I'm looking downstairs. What do I see? She's standing near where she started, just standing there, hands to her side, staring up at me. I'm looking at her, making eye contact. And I don't know if I peed on myself. I'm sure I didn't. But if I had peed on myself, I honestly wouldn't have been mad at myself because it was just a bone-chilling moment. And it was quiet. It's funny when I think back, it was just quiet. And this is Sabongari Road, instead of Kinyaki. So those of you who are familiar with Kanu, and I'm really pulling memories out from 35 years ago. Very, very busy road. You see cars and people moving cattle. Like it was just a very busy road, and there's a big market in that area. And I'm watching this woman, and it's quiet. And maybe there were people on the road, but I don't remember them there. I just remember just her. And I don't know how long that time lasted for, but before you know it, my mother and her friends are at the balcony, and they're all standing there next to me. And I look up and I see them, and just look at this woman. And you can hear the whispers of prayers. And she just turns and walks away. Never saw her again. The thing that's interesting about Africa that I love, and Nigeria and our culture, is that in America they have ghost stories. In Nigeria, you have supernatural experiences. And some of you might be listening to this thinking to yourselves like, yo, this is not true, this is not real. You probably just dreamt it. And trust me, I did not dream it. My mother was there, my grandfather was there, my nanny at the time was there, and those customers were there. And I remember afterwards, everybody just came in, and I think they had a prayer circle and they prayed. And it's one of those things. It's one of those things that happened. And I can tell you this, I have quite a few stories when I went to boarding school the year after. The things that I saw, the things that I heard, the things that, let me not just talk about the things that I heard. The things that I saw. Because when you hear sounds is one thing. But when you see things with your own eyeballs, and you know, okay, I'm awake right now. This ain't sleep. It's a very interesting experiences. But yeah, I shared that story with my students, and they were like, "Yo, mister, that is bugged out." And again, but I thought the thing that was interesting is that even after I told that story, a couple of my kids from Jamaica and from Haiti and from Mexico were all like, "Mister, you know what that was? In my country, they call that this. In my country, they call that this." And it's funny how, even telling this experience, how my students and I could connect towards those relative cultural spaces, you know. But again, it was something that I know for 100% that I saw, and it was definitely looking back, it was very cool, but also it was very scary. And even right now, as I'm telling this story, I'm gonna get a little goosebumps, like oof, you know. But I just wanted to share that story with you. Again, I do appreciate those of you who are listening to this podcast. I'm trying my best to make this space a space where I get to speak authentically my truth, my stories, my experiences, and also, you know, hopefully entertain those who are looking for entertainment, and also help clarify and educate, you know, as much as I can. And with that being said, thank you so much for your time, for your ears, and I'll talk to you guys soon. All right? Be well, and peace. And again, subscribe, like, share, all of the above.
And now he's been promoted. His job, principal.
That's the end.